Second question is, how is measured actually different from our current MMM provider? Whether that's a third-party provider or an in-house solution, there's a few different ways to answer this question, but I think by far the most important point is the robust and rapid data and modeling architecture that Measure deploys. This basically allows for a continuous model refresh. So there is no refresh cycle at Measured. We are not updating on a quarterly or biannually basis. Basically, our model will continuously optimize and recalculate as we get daily data in from all the various media sources across your portfolio and obviously your business outcome data as well. There are a few trade-offs to this. For one, we are generally not inputting any data sources that are, let's say, only available on a quarterly cadence. This could be a really esoteric macroeconomic data or maybe really hard to collect operational data. Generally speaking, folks don't tend to miss those variables in the model once they're introduced to the capabilities that are now enabled by having a daily or continuous refresh in the model. Generally, the benefits far outweigh the costs there. To use a prior analogy from a prior episode of this series, we call this basically watering a garden daily. It's much easier to maintain a garden on a daily basis than waiting a quarter and then seeing which plants are dying the most and need water first. If you're able to do this on an ongoing basis, it generally keeps the models far more interpretable and easier to manage and deal with. So the second point of why Measured is different is our foundation of incrementality experimentation. Basically, all media mix models at Measured are grounded in some type of causal input, whether it's your actual brand's specific incrementality experiments, or if you're just starting with Measured and haven't run any experiments yet, our library of incrementality intelligence from across our entire portfolio, different categories, different markets, so on and so forth. There's a few reasons why this is so important. Obviously, in kind of today's day and age where everything is so collinear and codependent with one another, you really need in-market experimentation to help the regression model or the MMM string apart which media drivers are actually driving sales at any given point in time, because the regression model alone is really not able to do that. But I would say even the more important aspect of this is that experimentation is dynamic. If you run an experiment in January and you find that a media is not performing like you would like it to, and basically we go in and change the strategy or change the creative or messaging or targeting or whatever it might be, we're able to retest that same tactic and actually see how the change in execution impacted performance, which is not the case for a traditional MMM, which generally is giving you a static or average read across the entire model time period. The third reason why Measured is a bit different is that we are actually integrating or triangulating different techniques of measurement, namely MMM, incrementality testing, and attribution, all into the same system. Unlike some other providers, these aren't just three standalone techniques that we're then kind of taking the midpoint between, or let's say deciding which answer we think is most believable for any given use case. These three things are actually integrated into one another and they are improving the output of the other. So for example, our MMM feeds our experimentation platform. It helps us kind of predict which tests are most likely to be statistically significant or not. So that really helps in guiding the experimental roadmap. In turn, experiments are automatically calibrating our media mix model via Bayesian inference. So every test that you run, or like I said, even intelligence from across our portfolio, is basically training and calibrating the model on a continuous basis. And attribution, basically signals coming from the various tracking sources we have, is also helping set some of the parameters in the model based off more granular and bottoms-up data. The third, and I would say maybe most under-talked about aspect of Measure that really helps with media mix modeling is actually just the breadth of different brands and categories that we've worked in. What I've generally found with other, not just MMM, but experimentation projects as well, people will get an answer from the model. 5% is the amount of business being driven by this media driver. They'll say great. And they won't really know how to interpret that number. They won't know if it's good. They won't know if it's bad. They won't know if they should be expecting a higher or lower answer. Because of all of the experimental kind of experience that Measured has across these different platforms and across different categories, we're generally able to put into context at a much deeper level why you are seeing a specific answer and what to do about it. So for example, if we're talking about an experiment on Google PMax, let's say we've run 10,000 Google PMax experiments over the last few years, we have a whole bucket of tests that have returned, let's say, not very good results. And we know how these brands have tended to set up their accounts when they've gotten kind of low incrementality out of an experiment. On the flip side, we'll have, a bucket of results that have shown really high performance, really high incrementality, and we'll know how all those campaigns were executed or how those campaigns were set up. And we're basically able to put together lists of best practices for brands that are very likely to drive incrementality for their brand beyond just simple budget allocation, which is like the base case for media mix modeling. So the bottom line here is traditional MMM can really be like an expensive science project designed to satisfy curiosities at a very high level, but isn't really aligned to operational realities on a day-to-day basis. Measured is decision oriented. We are designed to drive meaningful actions on a daily basis.